Ta-da! Hello, everyone.
We are back.
So keen.
So ready.
Many apologies to everyone for 2 weeks ago. That was an unforeseen incident, and we had to skip due to that. But we have returned. Hopefully, none of you have forgotten us, and we can continue the story of God's belief and connection. So, as a recap, tell us a little bit about who you're playing and who you are, and what they experienced last time. We'll start with Chantel.
Who I'm playing is an unnamed, currently god, or maybe not entirely unnamed, titled, but not necessarily named, called the Fate. Half the time I say spinner and half the time I say weaver, which explains why it's a title and not a name. Because it's very flexible right now. But their focus is on fate and on creation, but creation through weaving and spinning, and in some cases jewel working and metallurgy. But creation is through those processes is the kind of goal here. Their experience upon waking was less than fun. Interesting, very interesting, but less than fun. They're not having the best time because this new world and the way that this new world works is not... sometimes you age and the old ways were better. And so that's where they are. This new world moves a bit too fast and is a bit uncomfortable, and everyone seems to be making decisions without thinking and creating and building things without thinking about it. There's no intention behind what or it doesn't seem like or feel like there's intention behind what they're doing. And so everything feels off.
And I know you are a regular on this channel, but for any of our new viewers, please remind us who you are.
I'm Chantel, and I am here. But also sometimes on Split the Party, which is an Australian channel, playing a tiny cat-sized Khajiit. Tiny cat, house cat-sized Khajiit.
Khajiit has mirrors.
Khajiit has mirrors. But yeah, today and here, I am a deity.
Love it. So let's go over to Wasa. Remind us who you are, who you're playing, and how they have processed the last session.
Hello everyone, I am Wasa. I use all of the pronouns, and I am playing just your regular, completely normal, has not done anything wrong in their life, little guy called Will. Definitely not giving trickster energy, and definitely not reaping the repercussions of past actions. Once bound to a tree, has recently found out that there was a sort of little courage test to go into the forest which they were bound into, which involved if you pull at the rope that bound him and set them free, they would grant your wish. They have decided to roll with this for the time being. Because they don't know what's going on, and so they began to embark on the journey of figuring out when they are. Not where at the moment, but when. And similarly, they don't love the vibe. there has been a certain interference with lanterns that they've seen where they're like, I don't like the way that you're looking at me kind of energy, because flame should have something about them that is like a feeling that is either the comfort of home or just seeking out that end result of a journey and things like that, but everything to them feels a bit cold. It's in the lanterns that light up the town, it's in the traveling systems that they have, which I think we know it's called a train, but it just doesn't feel right. And they have one follower who does not quite yet know who they quite are, but again, they're just rolling with everything to understand what's going on and trying to get a foothold, ? On this new place.
Excellent. And I'm Chris Geary, or KG. You can find me here every other week for a couple of weeks while we tell this story. I am your host for the evening, and we will continue not exactly where we left off. We're going to jump forward a little bit in time, and you've had the opportunity to communicate with your follower and to get to know them more. What are some of the ways in which you would communicate with them? Either is it just verbally? Is it through signs and symbols? What kind of connection are you attempting to build?
I feel as though this is an odd question, because at the moment with one follower, it's more a case of what kind of connection can I build? Like, how much can I talk to? Like, how much can I speak to this follower versus how much I want to? And I think it's kind of haltingly. Like, if there are, then it's a few words at a time. But it's probably more likely, light glinting, like, how like you walk past a building and the light hits that window and it shines in your eyes and you're like, ah. But it's it's essentially things like that that would guide in a direction if she wants that. But at the moment, it's very much about what she wants, not about what I want, which feels weird, but it is that, I think, for now.
So, through your observations, you will have learned that, you already know that she is fairly young. And because of that, maybe some of her wants are a little simplified, and yet others are quite idealistic or a little, shall we say, over ambitious at the same time. So Flora has this admiration for her grandmother, as we noted last time. And she has this tendency to really want to uphold and bring to light the things that grandmother talks about that most people dismiss, which a lot of it has to do with the traditions, or as they were passed down, maybe not originally so, but the traditions that are related to your deity. She sometimes aloud to herself, but oftentimes just in her mind asks questions about what does this mean, or what does that thing that grandma always said have to do with you, or like little bits and bobs of curiosity, accepting the connection that was created almost naively. She just accepts it wholeheartedly and sees it as the opportunity to learn something, in order to make, well, what she believes will make her grandmother proud.
I would definitely tell her that not all of the constellations were deliberate. Like, there's one that they probably call something like, I don't know, growth, that was, me falling over and like just kicking up ashes into the sky, and they got stuck, and that was just that. Like, it's not all deliberate, it's just what happened, and now
Mm-hmm.
there it is. I think there would be a lot of play in what I do, and a lot of, I suppose, that there is some tradition that is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how, in the Bible, there is no eating pork, because in the heat, you don't leave pork out. And so you
Correct.
can't have it in an unrefrigerated environment. So there's a load of traditions that don't make sense when technology moves forward, or when times change, and there are other traditions that kind of still have a purpose. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
part of what I would be doing, especially in this time, is trying to figure out which of these teachings that you were learning have been skewed so far that they don't match with why they were there to begin with.
Excellent. We're going to shift to our other perspective. And while fate, the Fate Weaver, has chosen to take a more observational stance on communication, and how does Will respond to this opportunity?
Will, there's a little bit of testing the waters here, where Will is effectively acting like a lucky charm to their follower. They're like, maybe there's an earring or something that Will is housed in that's like close by that can say, no, don't do that, or like, I like that, and things like that, which in small instances, like you are in line to get lunch or something, they get the biggest, like, or like a slightly bigger piece of like the meal, or like they get like a sweet treat, or they get the pencil that doesn't snap very easily, you have to keep sharpening. So there's those, I think Will is attempting to see how far the, like, just a good luck energy can be used, but then is also encouraging them to take those, like, play games, like take the risk kind of thing. Like if there's, for example, like a soccer game or a football game that they're playing in, it's like, take the shot, or like, go for the goal sort of thing, because Will wants to utilize that ability that they have, that inherent luck that they have, to give the follower this gift, but then also strengthen that belief in them. That's maybe if people are like, what's happening today, that it gathers a little bit more of a, oh, it's a lucky charm, or it's, I've made a new friend and their name is Will kind of thing. That sort of stuff. And in terms of like education and classes and things, because whilst there's that observation of the world around them, there's that Will needs to be a little bit embedded into the things that are at play. So it's, if there is like a science class or anything, or like a building class, it's watching and trying to, like, asking questions and guiding. and also responding when their follower is asking any of those questions. So that's
Gotcha.
kind of what Will's going to do.
Will have realized that the more they attempt to bend luck to the positive for Heretica, that their follower notices, unless Will actually points it out every time, will notice most of them, but not all of them. And it does start to like build on itself and gain some momentum. The smaller things are easier. The like, for the example of like the shot on goal in football, the Heretica didn't see any effect. Not necessarily because of a lack of belief or anything in that nature, but because the extent of that kind of influence goes not just from how she would strike the ball, but also how the ball would then like the trajectory of it and where it would land, that sort of thing. So it's a little bit further, and as Will continues to stretch those powers, it's almost like muscle memory, and they do start to return and grow, but the gains are small, much like when folks first go back to the gym or some other exercise routine. But they're there, and they're noticeable and notable to Heretica. So some of the things that both of you will notice is that a lot of the more generally benevolent kinds of, shall we say, guidelines or commandments that may have been attributed to a variety of different deities over y'all's time seem to be primarily coalescing under the teachings of the primary religion that has kind of cropped up. And bear with me for a second, the name slipped my mind and I did not open that file, or that that file, so give me 1 second while I grab that.
Oh, good. We'll just gossip about the new kid on the block.
There you go.
Who is this?
But actually, though, is this
Like, I feel like it'd be like, oh no, it's like, oh, it's because I helped. And then if Heretica is like, oh, we've been taught that it's actually because if we follow these rules, we get this.
Mhm.
I think Will
Yeah.
be like,
Oh.
excuse me.
Oh no.
Yeah, the primary is the Church of the Sun, and you both have known there to be a sun god before, but it's almost familiar in some ways, and yet at the same time it doesn't fit right, if that makes sense. It's awkward hearing it attributed there. And others might be attributed to the Temple of the Moon, which is the second largest religious organization, you will have learned. They don't really name their deity, they just refer to them as God.
Seems a bit impersonal, honestly.
Indeed. The connection, as your followers will explain things, the connection seems to be more to the rites and rituals than to the deity or deities themselves. So much so that you're not sure whether or not there are two separate deities for these organized religions, or if they are splinters of the same or path of origin.
Can we?
Yeah, it's like, do we know?
Who is this kid and where are
What's
they?
their address? What's
Do
their
they have a
number?
skateboard? What's the deal?
As you kind of like feel out and travel with your followers as you did last session, as they went to school, you will note that large building, the religious kind of structure that was pointed out before, seems to be attributed to the Church of the Sun. And both followers, if asked, will give you the same response, that it really, like, that seems to be a fairly common practice by that church. They have grandiose buildings. They take up large amounts of real estate, and it's a show of power almost. And if you use like that, it in theory would be a holy site. And so visiting there to look for some sort of connection and feel out for where this deity is or who they might be, you get a very, very, very weak sensation of any connection between that building and any sort of divine power. Almost esoteric when I say weak. For comparison, why don't each of you describe what one or an average sacred place or shrine may have looked like in your day for you, and how you would have left your mark there. And we can play a little bit of comparison between this new.
For Will, a site for Will would be sort of something that's in passing, maybe some stones that are stacked up against each other, maybe with like a piece of fruit or like a token of a traveler that has gone past. It's something that you willingly leave behind as a sign of, I've been here and like everything is good so far. So it's sort of that shared sense between followers and things, and you don't even necessarily have to be a follower. It's sort of like one of those things that you can do. So you can either get those along the paths, or if there's a safe space to camp, there's maybe there's always like an extra lantern there, or a lantern that's left. Maybe inside it will be your matchbox and your matchsticks, where you might not need the lantern, but maybe you need a little bit of light, or you need just that little strike kind of thing. That's sort of what Will would have. Not necessarily any grand buildings or anything like that, because they're not the type of person to stay around in one place too long. So it's a bit if to him.
No, absolutely. And so it would be more like a passing of good luck from one person to another kind of idea. Is that what I'm hearing? So, excellent. What about for the Fate Spinner?
So the Fate Spinner would have had a temple to the Fate Spinner would have been like, if you imagine chainmail, lots of chainmail. So like walls that are made of this hanging, essentially tapestry, with jewels embedded in it that would depict different moments, or almost freezes, but with jewels interspersed within that mail. And the sky would be open, because if it's the night sky, we can take on that, we can see from that. It would be unexpectedly warm inside, possibly because the heat is trapped in all of those, in the walls, essentially. But yeah, it wouldn't just be a building. It might even be in different shapes. Like it might be, you walk into one and it's triangular with just 3 pieces of chainmail, or it might be just built into a star shape itself. But the point of it is the artifice of building with metal and jewelry is literally built into the building.
Excellent. And while during your visit, as you kind of gaze upon this massive structure that has spires for who knows what reason, they don't seem to have any stairs that go to them, and it has these elaborate stained glass windows and depicting some sort of scenes. You assume that it has to do with the tenets of this religion. There doesn't seem to be that same personalization. It seems, again, connected to the teachings and not to the deity. Flora will tell you that her father and mother regularly attend the Church of the Sun, and that she's gone with them from time to time, especially when she was younger. And there's a lot of patterns to what they do. They recite the same scriptures. They discuss the same messages, and it's a very numbing experience, in her words, which is nothing like the stories that grandmother tells.
There's no one there, is there? There's just no one there. There's thoughts there. There's thoughts and prayers. It's what I'm getting.
I think
very much, absolutely.
I feel like the Fate Spinner, for the first time, the Fate Spinner is like, oh my god, why is Will so quiet? And then it's like, if we had like bodies, it is very much that I'm trying to be so controlled right now by not saying anything bad, because I'm trying to respect someone else's house right now. But Will is like, this sucks. This is boring.
Where's the good stuff? What's happening?
Where's the spice? It's meant to be fun. It's like kind of Will saying, there's no seasoning here.
As the two of you and the 2 best friends that have become followers, one for each of you, are sharing this, I guess, religious experience, both of the followers will kind of like pause for a moment, look at each other, and then say aloud to each of you individually, "What does worship look like for you?"
Oh, it's so fun. Like, if there was an image, you would hear kind of the relief and the smile in Will's, the way that Will speaks. Worship is there is that relationship that you have with your deity. There is a little bit of give and take, you know?
Mhm.
You worship, it's a thanks, it's a conversation, it's maybe you want to give a little treat and you may get one back. You might be in the next moment or much later. That's the excitement that there is when it comes to worship. And these conversations aren't just recited. Like, again, this is the mental image of like, I'm just like, this isn't my vibe, God, dude, to where they are. To me, worship is, you have to believe in the words that you're saying and the things that you are doing. And to follow is, for me, to take that step forward and want to take that step forward, because otherwise, what's the point? Why would you talk to a wall? That's not a proper conversation. Why would you give meals and give things of your own, make these offerings to someone who doesn't respond? Bit boring. Not fun. It's just and like there's sort of that look over towards the fate spinner, because quite obviously Will's very entrenched in being involved rather than being sort of a little bit like a step or two back.
Flora, not Heretica, will actually respond to what you said and say, how do you have conversations with that many people at once? As a side note, this is the first time that you know that she has ever heard your voice.
I'm looking at you like, oh, oopsies. Did I just did our wires get crossed while this was happening? And it's one of those things of, as much as people will disagree, I'm a very good listener. It's a God thing. And
I love that answer. I do. I absolutely love that answer.
I'm a good listener. I will admit, sometimes I listen to others. I do pick favorites sometimes, but
Is that why you
I
picked
do
Heretica?
listen.
I mean, she's my best friend, so she's my favorite.
Heretica is very good, isn't she? I think Heretica picked me in this instance.
That makes sense. She's always been brave.
There's sort of like the my follower is dope kind of reaction to that.
Flora will then turn her attention, even though physically she doesn't really shift, and say, and other than the tenets that Grandma talks about and the examples in the stories, what do you prefer? How should I worship?
Worship is less my thing. I like worship. It feels good. But I'm more looking for followers than worshippers. And there's a sense that I am turning my attention to the spires that are up there in that Church of the Sun. And I'll say, I don't need or want anything like that. There is no need, unless you really want to try to touch the constellations, to touch the stars. If you want to do it, that's one thing, but it's not worship for me for you to do that.
I think I understand.
I am a fan of the quietness, the darkness that when you are thinking deeply and the sun sets and you're thinking that whole time, then you realize, oh, it's dark in here. It's time to light a candle.
Hmm.
That, to me, is worship. It
Kind
can
of
be
like
fun.
meditation.
Kind of. Kind of. But it's also a conversation. Like Will said, I can hear more than you think.
Well, that's good. I kind of worried that once you get more followers, because I imagine that once people realize that you have returned, that you'll have more followers. I was kind of worried that I may not get to talk to you anymore.
No, I will always talk to you.
And she smiles really big. Heretica goes, huh. What do you guys like to talk about then? I'm sure it's not just like, hey, how's the weather out there? Because that gets boring. Old people don't talk about fun things.
What do old people talk about these days?
What they ate, who's having babies, if they went to work or not, how tired they are, that kind of stuff.
And what do you like to talk about?
Well, more exciting things are going on. Like, larger events or, curious things. Like, what if this were to happen? What if you got more followers? Could we make an army and go get the guys that hurt my dad? That sort of thing.
Is that something that you want to happen?
I just want my dad back. He's never been the same.
What happened to him?
All he'll tell me is that he had an accident. But Mom says well, when he first said that, Mom said that's not how accidents happen, so I know something's going on, but they think I'm too young. I mean, I'm a teenager. I'm not that young.
I remember feeling that way.
You were a teenager once?
Long time ago.
I like that. Makes you feel more real.
So they don't tell you everything.
No, they say it's for adults and that when I'm older I'll understand. They've said that ever since I was a little kid, and I keep getting older and they still use that excuse.
Is it possible? How far from my followers can I see/go?
Both you and Will have learned that you can, at this stage, travel throughout this large city without much difficulty, regardless of where your followers are. But pushing beyond that, I don't know if you've tried, but if you had tried, you become faint in both sense of the word. The lack of energy as well as feeling like you're starting to dissipate.
It's like a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Citywide Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, and this is like a conversation that I have with Fate Spinner of confirming that it's, because I believe last session I realized that this wasn't like bad luck, that this happened, that it wasn't an accident to the dad, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
no, you caught on faster than I expected, because I wasn't trying too hard to imply anything. You're like, oh.
Yeah, the vibes were very off for Will, and I think that I'd let the Fate Spinner know that.
Can I get to Heretica's dad? Like, just to observe and
Absolutely.
see what's going on?
I'll take them to the place, because I imagine I would have had a peep at some time.
Oh, absolutely. He's basically homebound now. One of his legs is mangled in such a way that he can't put any weight on it any longer, and really can't use it. So, and he's had difficulty adjusting to that. While some folks might more easily adapt to some sort of walking aid or form of physical therapy to strengthen themselves, his perceived loss of mobility, there is some loss there, but to him it was much greater, and he's struggled with finding the mental fortitude to push through and continue on. Your observations would show you that he's either in bed or in an overstuffed chair in the living room, and he doesn't do much else other than either read if Heretica or her mother brings him a book, or he just kind of stares off into space now that he can't work.
And how is the mother doing?
She's a bit harried. She's picked up extra work to help with certain things. She does what she can to try and keep things some semblance of normal for Heretica. Standard meal times, those kinds of routine things. She's latched on to quite a bit as a sense of stability, and she does everything that she can to not like create a situation where she and her husband would argue. Like, you can tell she's not walking on eggshells, but she dotes on him in very particular ways to try and not make him feel pitied, or not try and provoke him about his current state, if that makes any sense.
Do I get the impression, looking at this, that someone else has been taking fate into their own hands?
Let's go ahead and make a roll here. Let's see, which stat do I want to play around with this time?
Daddy's home.
Where'd you go?
Dice jail for you. Haven't done a thing. Dice jail for you.
Why won't you load? Okay, there we go. Let's go with wisdom. Like I feel like this is intuitive more than analytical. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Still no. That's a 6. I'm not awake. I'm still sleepy.
Oh.
It's been a long time.
The circumstances feel unsettling to you. Being able to parse why and to specifically answer the question that came to mind is kind of like there's this mental block still. So the interpreting of that intuition is where you find yourself struggling a little. However, you don't believe your intuition is wrong. You believe that the answer to your question is yes, someone was meddling, but you can't figure out why you think that's the answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The intuition's off, but why would someone do something like this? It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And does it feel like it's something, because I know that basically I was put in God jail for meddling. Does it feel like that kind of energy from like another power, or does this feel like a human type interference of like someone getting involved that is like, actually, I'm going to make sure this person gets hurt?
Much like the human interference with the primal aspect of giving light that bothers Will so much, this feels very similar in the human interference. Like, this is not right. But it doesn't feel divine. It feels very mortal.
Like manufactured.
Yes.
This is someone's, like a mortal's grand design rather than our own grand design kind of thing.
Correct. Because both of you note that there doesn't feel like there's that works in mysterious ways that's often attributed to the grand design of deities, because how you all act, react, think, and do things is like fourth dimensional, while mortals work within the 3 dimensions. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like there's that absence of that other piece. And so yes, this feels very mortal, very mundane in its origins. Doesn't make it any less unsettling, and it doesn't make it any less a diversion from what could have or maybe even should have been.
A question that I now have that is, if I as a deity was asleep, does that mean that the things that I bring to this world were missing? Or were they just dampened? Like, is the domain still active? Like, is it still does fate still exist if the fate spinner isn't there to spin it, I guess?
And that's going to be, again, like one of those fourth dimensional circumstances. Yes, but kind of. It'd be like if the god of the sun had truly disappeared, would the sun no longer exist? Of course, the sun would still exist. It is a creation. Fate is a product of the spinning, of the weaving. And while the weaver is no longer present, the loom or the tools of fate still exist and are working off of almost like muscle memory, which means that they don't have the guidance or the intentionality that you would have brought. So could they be derailed? Absolutely. Could they have other issues? 100%, because there's no divine hand guiding them.
I feel bad about it. The last question that I have for now, although I might be lying, I don't know, is from what I can see of Heretika's dad, is this the fate that he should have, or is this his stopping point? Because I'm a deity of artifice, death, and night.
Yeah.
So is this it?
This is the product. Like if you were to look at it from a purely divine sense, and you're just kind of going, it is the product of a possible fate. It could be the end, but it doesn't have to be the end. You know better than anyone that while fate in some ways is fixed, in others it is not.
Question from me. Oh, sorry. You can go on if you like. Is there a way that, whether or not it's through Heretika or me directly, is there a way that I can not imbue something with absolute, super divine, holy kind of magic, but kind of push that trajectory of, I know that the dad is in that state of what do I do, kind of has that given up kind of energy, that bit of I guess hope, or maybe it's with the movement has figured out if I slightly prop my cane this way and when I move it hurts less kind of thing. Is there something that I can do to kind of shift it a little? Because I feel like the mental block of the rehab is kind of like that, a writer's block kind of thing, or those mental blocks of I just need to get through it. And with it, I just need that little moment of guiding, which is, kind of a thing that Will is.
So Will wants to use luck to nudge his fate in a direction,
a combination of luck and journey. This isn't going to be the immediate fix, but that point in the right direction, it's when you've got the two, when you're at the road and you're I don't know, my compass is broken, and you're I'll flip a coin, and whichever heads, tails, heads this way, tails that way. that like I add just a little bit of that weight to one side of that coin to make sure like that the chances are a little bit better of going left.
I think what you will find is that Heretica's father is not indecisive about which path to go, but has chosen not to flip the coin.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like, it's when they talk about like fight or flight, there's fight, flight, but there's also freeze.
Mhm.
And he's hit like this point of suspended animation. If you were to try and look at his, well, if the fate spinner were to try and look at his fate going forward, he's not progressing.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have anywhere to go.
Mhm. Mm.
As you all ponder, you know that Heretica and Flora are, hanging out in Heretica's room and doing whatnot. As you finish your observations and make your way back to them, you feel more empowered than you have since you've awoken. And as we go to break, our two players here will think about what spectral kind of form they will take that only the followers can see.
I'm excited.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. We are here to continue our path to my players. Where, what shape, what form have you decided to show yourselves as? You are gaining strength and the ability to have more influence and effort or effect on this world.
Would you like to go, Fate Spinner?
I will. The Fate Spinner will appear as almost a reflection of Flora, but in chainmail. So, mail shirt, and like, you know, when welding, you wear a welder's mask.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a welder's mask crossed with like a veil.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, it just comes down, it's a veil, and there are some gemstones dotted like a constellation in the sky at the top. And at their hip is a small set of tools, like just see, as if they're like ready to work.
Nice.
Lovely. My turn?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Will is, if you've ever seen the TV shows where they have like based around like cultivation and things like that, so those long like Chinese robes sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
Will's is sort of that like long like flowy robes that look like they're easy to hitch up and move around, like depending on the weather. There's like a very big hat that's sort of like got the cord that's like hanging on their back, and it's all like cool materials, very lightweight looking, and in sort of those shades of the greens and like those like fading into your whites.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very human appearance to themselves, and very long hair tied up in a long ponytail. And there's sort of on their hip they have like a little jar with like a little firefly.
Mm.
And you know, they walk with sort of like a staff, kind of like the way that, you know, people with mountains, they climb and hike, they have like the big stick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Stick Nation Rise kind of situation there. And there's like a lantern on the like hanging on like a little crook.
Ooh, perfect.
That's Will. Human, I would say like the like very like conventionally handsome features, I think, because they are also very vain.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be what they look like.
Perfect.
Giving that vibe, I guess, of someone that it's like, can you trust them like on the road? Like this is like the friendly traveler, or in that sense of like the kitsune kind of like shapeshifter of like, I can also take you somewhere completely dangerous.
Nice. As you both realize that you've made this deeper connection to the world, you also understand that it is likely a byproduct of the connection that you are building or have built with your followers. And so the further away you are from your followers, it is likely the less or the harder it'll be to manifest this much, which you know is only a small part of the powers that you've had once before. But it's growing. And you both can increase your influence by 1.
Will's like, do we know that this has happened? Like, is it like our spirits kind of enter the room and suddenly we have these forms? Or is it we've entered in there and as we've had this like mental conversation about what we've seen, we're slowly coming into kind of a form in front of our followers?
I would say it's more the latter. However, previously, the two of you, while you can recognize and acknowledge the presence of the other, it wasn't as visual as it was instinctual. Now it's both. So as you're having that and you're coming into view in front of your followers, you're also coming into much clearer view in front of one another.
I feel like Will is like having a conversation with you and is like sighing and is like wants to, like do that prop on the stick and just like, and the stick actually appears and Will is like, ooh.
Stepping up in the world.
This is what it feels like when you have 2 followers or two friends of followers.
The two will kind of gasp a little in slight surprise and smile and admire, because now they get to add something visual to what previously was, well, just a voice, and then before that was just thoughts.
Will stretching.
Will likes being admired.
Yeah. Will is like, it feels good to physically walk, have legs, and just feels more like Will.
For the Fate Spinner, it's slightly different because they don't look under the chainmail. They don't look the same as they did. They look like Flora. And part of that is, so that's what this perspective is. This is what it's like to see the world from this angle. And so for them, it's mostly like looking around at things, and they might just like walk around both of these young people and just be like, okay, this is how things have changed. This is the kind of fabric you're using now. This is what you're wearing. This is like, these are the things, and just start, I don't know if we can influence the world at all, or if we are just spectral. But definitely would sort of do that thing where people that like to touch stuff just come into the house and they just start picking up random objects.
When there's like fabric and you're like, I need to touch it because...
Ooh. My mother-in-law does it all the time. It's like, a thing I've never seen before. I need to put my hands on it. You don't need to put your hands on it, but I should. I'm going to put my hands on this and see what it feels like and what it's made from, and is it meant to be here? Or is it not meant to be here? Like, is there another place? Like, is there dust in a pattern that says it should be over here instead? What is your life? Like, there is a lot more like curiosity about the way the world works now.
Let's go ahead and would you like to spend effort in order to be able to make things tactile for you. Because you will note that originally when you go to pick something up, you can't grab it.
Yeah.
But if you concentrate really hard and mechanically spend effort, you can. You are able to now.
I don't trust my dice, so I would absolutely love to do that.
Excellent.
Do it. Do it.
So you spend one of your points of effort to just touch the things in the room and to learn about what the things in the world now feel like. There are some very familiar sensations. Things crafted from metals still seem to have a very familiarity to you. There's a warmer resonance in things made from, plants or animals or things of that nature, things that were once alive. While mortals might not be able to feel that resonance, your divine senses will pick up on it. Like this was once alive, kind of thing. You haven't felt that sensation in a long time.
Are the jewels up to the Lord Artificer's standards?
Well, there aren't many jewels, so to speak of, in the common, housing that Heretica's family lives in. They are not people of very large means. However, there is a jeweled locket on the dresser that is on one of those like felted tea stands that people will drape necklaces or things over to kind of let it display. And while the jewels are not necessarily expensive, precious stones, this was crafted by an artisan, and it is old. Not you old, but definitely much older than anyone that lives in this building.
We've never used divine gifts or given
Correct.
them in this game.
Correct.
Do we use the gift, or do we give the gift to others to use?
It would depend on the circumstance. So if you are wanting to have a gift that changes something external to yourself or affects something external to yourself, you will use effort to do so. If it is something internal to yourself, you will use influence to do so.
I see.
So like making yourself manifest is an act of influence on this realm, but touching the things and moving things is an act of effort.
Right.
Does that help kind of
It does.
clarify?
Yes.
So you can kind of do both depending on what the benefit is. If it's only applies to you, then it is limited.
What I wanted to do was look at, I guess, but then examine for in that jewel and that jewel's construction, if there is anything about it that is making it flawed. I would like to try to use faultless repair, which allows me to fix anything with the available material and tools.
Okay.
And I can make it can be made like new increasingly, depending on how much time I have to do it.
If you want to spend your other point of effort you can absolutely do that.
I would like to do that.
And just because you are stretching your wings, so to speak, let's augment that a little bit. And let's go ahead and use... Go ahead and make a roll based on your spirit saving throw.
I am so scared of my dice right now. Which one am I going to roll? Okay, we're rolling that one. Do good to me, please. Still not doing good to me. That's a 10. Double digit.
And what
That's
is
okay.
your final score on spirit?
That's a 10.
It's a 10. So you met it right on. And this was to enhance what you were doing. This wasn't to determine whether or not it worked. The point of effort makes this happen. Being that it's still reacquainting yourself with your powers, you feel there's more. You had to exert yourself more for such a simple act than you remember doing, and you do everything that you intend, but you don't make it completely like new. Instead, think of it as it's made the stories that are there hardier. Like, so you know how metals wear, right?
Yes.
Yeah, especially on jewelry when we touch them and rub them. Instead of eliminating all of those memories, so to speak,
Yeah.
they are just a bit more, I don't know, it's brighter, it's nicer, it's looks like it can last another 100 or 300 years.
Yes.
But it hasn't fixed all the flaws per se. It just simply made it last the test of time.
If anything, what I was trying to do was enhance enhance the stories. That's all. I wasn't trying to or if there is something that, if there's a part that has been worn down because it's been touched and handled, that can stay, but I would have made
if it was scratched because it was dropped, or
yes, those don't need to be there. I'm trying to sort of edit the stories,
filter out the unnecessary details.
Yes,
I get that. We'll call that a resounding success then. You are absolutely able to do that with precision. And because it takes less material to do that than to replace what has gone missing,
yes.
Though it felt like a Herculean effort, maybe as your first time truly influencing the world for a while, it was done well.
Nice. So far to go.
Is it nighttime or is it daytime still?
It's now like we'll say it's like post dinner at this time.
Absolutely, at dinner time would have stared into the pot to be like, so what you got in there?
Yeah, do I get another treat?
Absolutely.
Look, Will is if I have a human form, do I get to human eat? Is Will's thing.
Actually, if you were to try and spend a point of effort, effort, you'd be able to not only pick up the food, but consume it especially if it's been given to you as some form of gift or token or offering.
Oh, yes, 100%.
And the same goes for the Fate Spinner. I don't know if you have any effort left at this point, but
Although I did use the effort to tactilely interact with
true,
the world,
you did.
so maybe that's food.
Yeah, we'll go with both. Yeah, if and the followers will happily, especially seeing that seeing you eye the food like as such, almost like a hungry stray. They,
We are strays.
both-
We're strays.
they both would take some of the food that had not been eaten at dinner to the room while they went back, and they would have offered it to each of you. Not quite ready to answer the questions that may come up with Heretica's parents if they were to do it at the dinner table.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's reasonable. We'll take that.
Not any fear or anything. They just don't know what they would say, if that makes sense.
It is a bit awkward to be like, I have two gods sitting in my bedroom.
I have gods over for dinner?
Yeah, me and my gods are hanging out.
Yeah, and at this point, even in these like spectral forms that you were able to create, only your followers can actually see them. Or, well, not just followers, but believers, I should say. If you were to happen upon someone who still believed in the old gods, they may get that kind of like image in their periphery kind of sensation, or they see the reflection in a window or something like that, where they may not necessarily be connected enough to see you completely, but they would notice.
I was going to say Flora's grandmother.
Flora's grandmother would probably be able to see you both, yes.
I was gonna say, if like at the point where they have to go back home, I would have probably been like, I'll go with you, because as a journey person, and one of my things is while I travel, you won't be like hindered by like bad creatures or like bad weather. So that's like my like, I'll come with you.
Excellent.
But yeah.
You'll walk Flora home, and the Fate Spinner. Love it.
Also because I like
one
really
thing to
walk.
One thing to note: you had talked about wanting to have some sort of impact on the world surrounding Heretica's father. You now have actually experienced your ability to influence the world. Did you want to attempt something?
Yeah, I was going to say, when they were having dinner time, Heretica there and things like that, I wanted to maybe like eavesdrop on the comment, not necessarily be there as like sitting there like watching this whole thing, interacting, but go back into kind of like God mode and just watch and hear and listen and see what I could have done to maybe influence and turn that tide, or shift the attention from like the I've given up to maybe Heretica like talking to us, giving her like having the day where she's like willing to take the risks and stuff like that, that the momentum that Will was trying to create to give that push to then like domino effect to Dad.
Okay. If you want to spend a point of effort, you believe that you could extend the lucky charm aspect that your presence in Heretica's life has very subtly been showing up to her father. You would need to focus it probably on a specific item, like maybe his cane or something like that. But
Yeah.
you believe that you could extend that same subtle feeling of luck, of good luck.
Is there anything that he wears? Because it's like, I like the idea of using the cane, but if there is something, you know how people will have like a lucky charm, like for example, sports people have like a lucky band or something like that. Is there anything like that? Otherwise, it would be the cane, because I think that for Will, the cane would be that first go-to, unless there's something that already has that feeling of this was my good luck charm.
You do not note anything that he currently wears that would take that role, save for maybe the wedding band that he wears. He does seem to have a healthy relationship, though strained due to circumstances, with his spouse. So, like, neither of them, even with all of this stress, seem to be trying to take anything out on one another. Like, there seems to be some level, there's health in this relationship. So maybe there's that, but it's not directly as blatant as the things that you were talking about.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Maybe I'll go to the cane first, and then I'll move on to the band next. I'll shift it later.
Okay.
So I'll move it to the cane just to give it that focus.
Wonderful. As you make your way back to Flora's home, and this part of town, it's really a lot of like townhomes or townhomes that have been split into two smaller kind of apartment style situations. And you make it back to their townhome, and they, her mother checks in on her to make sure she ate and that everything's okay over at her friend's house, etc., etc. There's nothing really amiss there per se, as they enter in and they ask about her day, how was school, that kind of thing, typical check-in. And then she goes upstairs to her grandmother's room to tell grandmother about the fate spinner.
I am also a god of death, so I'm not going to be there until after she's been told.
That is very wise. Very wise.
I don't want to scare this old lady.
So
that.
So from your like god mode, as Wasa described it for Will, you can still eavesdrop if you wish. Will, are you sticking around for all of these shenanigans? Or are you just there to drop them off and head back?
I think I'm there to drop them off. I don't think that it's one of those things that I could stay if there is a need, but otherwise I will go back to see my craft at work kind of thing.
Okay. Absolutely.
Just to give them that privacy, because this is very you territory. Will is like, respect. You call me if you need me.
There's also an element of chaos to Will's existence. So I just wanted to check in before assuming anything.
I think it's fair. Will was like, I'm going to be good for once and show that I am patient and I'm listening and I'm reformed and
working on patience this time around. We remember.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I told you. all that listening. I listened
Mhm.
to your eyes being like, go away, and was like, okay, bye.
Uh, and so Flora will come in to her grandmother, well, knock first, and when her grandmother invites her in, she'll come in, and we see grandmother sitting in the rocking chair again. She's got a lap blanket on across her lap, and she's putting away a book that she was reading onto the side table. And she and Flora start to have a conversation, just small talk, as Flora approaches and sits cross-legged on the floor before her grandmother and says, "Grandma, did you ever have the chance to meet any of the gods?" "Well, no, child. That's not something that's happened in many, many generations." "Why do you ask?" "Well, I've met the Fate Weaver. And this is where we will conclude for the evening. I want to thank both of my players. Please remind everyone where they can find you and who you are. And let's close out our episode.
I'll go first. I am Chantel B. You can find me everywhere as Chantel B. I am mostly on Blue Sky now. I'm waiting for my archive to finish up on Twitter because I think we're locking it down with changes that are happening there. I'm here. I'm at Split the Party on Tuesday nights, playing some Skyrim. Or Elder Scrolls in general. I'm glad we stopped when we did because my brain was just full of like fireworks and be like, hey, I'm here now. And I didn't want to do that. ADHD and impulsivity could have got the better of me, so I'm glad we stopped.
I also felt it was fair to give you until next time to ponder how you would want to present yourself to a believer, but not yet a follower.
Yes.
And Wasa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wasa Botte, WASABOTTE, on Blue Sky as well because of obvious reasons. Yeah, playing here. There are a couple of things, but they're at the moment a little bit under wraps before we launch them. But watch this space because there's more games that I'm in. But thank you.
Excellent.
It's been fun, and I love this game.
Excellent. I'm your host for the evening. My name's Chris Geary. You can find me on Blue Sky as well at Chris Geary. Technically, I'm still on Twitter, but I've already locked down my account and may wipe everything at some point. So Blue Sky is the best place to find me for any updates. And for now, every fortnight, for a few more episodes, you will be able to find me here as we explore faith, belief, and gods.